Hello, I'm Lieutenant Stephen Biggs, Public Information Officer for the Mesquite Police Department. This critical incident community briefing is intended to provide you with information about an officer-involved shooting that occurred on the morning of May 4th, 2021. You're about to see relevant video footage and learn about other evidence and police procedures related to the case so you can have a better understanding of what occurred based on what we know right now. The Mesquite Police Department conducts very thorough use of force investigations, which typically require investigators to interview multiple witnesses, view numerous hours of video footage, and analyze a significant amount of forensic evidence. We are still at the very early stages of this investigation, and our understanding of the incident may change as this additional evidence is collected, analyzed, and reviewed. We also do not draw any conclusions about whether the officers acted consistent with our policies and the law until all the facts are known and the investigation is complete. A word of caution: the images and information you're about to see may be disturbing. When a police officer uses force to arrest a suspect or defend against an attack, it can be graphic and difficult to watch. In addition, there may be strong language used by those shown in the video. Viewer discretion is advised, especially for young children and sensitive viewers. On May 4th, 2021 at 7:44 a.m., the Mesquite Police Department received a 911 call with an open line, specifically meaning that the phone call was connected, but the caller was not responding to the operator's questions. As you will hear in the recording, a female is upset, screaming and crying. A male can also be heard with additional screaming, yelling, and the sounds of a possible physical struggle. The call was disconnected, but the operator called back and did not receive an answer. An address was associated to this phone number by previous police calls at 5860 Northwest Drive, apartment 202 in Mesquite. A new police call was created and coded as a 911 hang-up. Here is the 911 call from this incident.
Mesquite 911, Morales. What's the address of your emergency? 911, what's the address of your emergency?
Listen to the dumbass response you gave me. I was going to take it out of you. Listen to the response you gave me. Listen to the response you gave me.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
No, don't take me that way.
Hello, 911, what's the address of your emergency?
You trying to do it, right? All I'm saying is take it.
Hello, 911.
Please don't take my son. Why don't you take it? All this shit been paid at me.
911, what's the address of your emergency?
I've been trying to pay my bills and stuff. I'm gonna pay him. After you said you know something that works, probably think to help me. Where we need to go. Okay, let me go get it.
One, what's the address of your emergency?
At approximately 7:50 hours, officers were dispatched to the location. Here is that radio traffic.
261 and 244 start toward a 911 hang-up call. Audubon Park Apartments, 5860 Northwest, apartment 202. Started out as an open line. The call takers could hear females screaming and crying and saying, "Please don't hit me." There was a male in the background that was yelling at her. Prior from the last disturbance shows suspect as an Ashton Pink. He's a black male born in 93. He has Region 99 side of Garland and DPD and shows to be a gang member. 222, we've tried calling back a few times. There's no answer. We've left him a message. 214 and 244, the last prior call to location does show Ashton Pink to be a mental patient. He's bipolar, schizophrenic, and has depression.
At approximately 7:59 hours, the first officer arrives on scene and knocks on the door of the apartment. We see at this point the suspect answer the door. That suspect was later identified as 27-year-old Ashton Pink. Officer 1 advised Mr. Pink that she was there to inquire about a disturbance. As you will see in the video, Mr. Pink was calm but not cooperative. The door was quickly closed by Mr. Pink when Officer 1 received confirmation that a female victim was inside the apartment and in distress. The female victim later told investigators that she was behind Mr. Pink when he answered the door, and she was signaling to Officer 1 for help. Officer 1 continued to knock on the front door and called out to Mr. Pink. Eventually, the door opened and the female victim exited with a young child. The female victim stated to Officer 1 that Mr. Pink physically assaulted her and he was in possession of a knife. She advised that Mr. Pink was trying to leave the apartment. Officer 2 arrived at 8:01 hours, about the same time as Mr. Pink climbed out of a second-floor window and then dropped to the ground. Mr. Pink was holding a long club and knife, as previously mentioned by the female victim. Officer 1 and Officer 2 placed themselves between Mr. Pink and the female victim and her child. The officers attempted to verbally engage Mr. Pink, and Officer 2 can be seen taking steps backward to provide space. Officers did display their handguns in response to the weapons Mr. Pink produced. Mr. Pink refused any verbal commands with the officers, and he can be heard yelling repeatedly, "Shoot!" This encounter between Mr. Pink and the officers outside the apartment building only lasted approximately 25 seconds. Mr. Pink made no effort to flee or drop his weapons. Instead, he ran directly toward the officers with the club and knife raised in his hands. The officers made the decision to fire their duty weapons, striking Mr. Pink, who fell to the ground. The club fell from his hands first, and the knife fell out of his hands while he was on the ground. Body-worn video cameras are issued by the Mesquite Police Department. They are worn at chest or belt level and capture a general perspective within line of sight from that angle. The angle of the camera prohibits viewers from seeing everything the officers saw and experienced. Upon activation, both audio and video are recorded. Here's the body-worn camera video from Officer 1.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Pretty good.
We got a call of a disturbance.
No disturbance here.
Okay. Can I talk to you, ma'am?
There's no disturbance here.
Yeah, there is a disturbance here. You can open the door. We're going to come in.
He's running.
Okay. Which way did he go?
He ran off the back of the
244.
Out that window.
Subject just went upstairs, climbed on the balcony.
He just hit me.
Okay. Hang on just a second. What's he got in his hand? Does he have a weapon? I'm sorry?
A knife.
Okay, go ahead and come over here, ma'am. Ma'am, don't go back in your apartment. Okay. Come on down here and talk to me.
10-4-58-60, apartment 202.
244, he's supposed to be armed with a knife. He went up on that balcony. He's supposed to have a knife.
Nigga, shoot! 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 Don't do it!
Don't do it! Don't do it! I don't know.
Don't do it!
She said he had a knife. Put your hands up! 244 shots fired. Stay on the ground! Stay on the ground!
Now that we have seen the raw version of the body-worn camera video, let us look at it again as we discuss and highlight some key details from this event.
He's running.
Okay. Which way did he go?
He ran off the back of the
244.
Out that window.
Subject just went upstairs, climbed on the balcony. Okay. Hang on just a second. What's he got in his hand? Does he have a weapon? I'm sorry?
A knife.
Okay, go ahead and come over here, ma'am. Ma'am, don't go back in your apartment. Come on down here and talk to me.
10-4-58-60, apartment 202.
244, he's supposed to be armed with a knife. He went up on that balcony. He's supposed to have a knife.
Nigga, shoot! 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 Don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it. I don't know.
Don't do it.
She said he had a knife.
We see Mr. Pink come around the corner and charge at officers with his arm raised in an aggressive manner. In his hand is both a knife and the club. As Mr. Pink is struck, we see the club fall to the ground. We can also briefly see the knife in his right hand. Mr. Pink falls to the ground and is continually given verbal commands by the officers. As Mr. Pink rolls over, we see the knife fall from his right hand onto the ground. Mesquite police officers attempted CPR and other life-saving measures. A Mesquite Fire Department ambulance was dispatched at 8:03 hours. The ambulance arrived at 8:07 hours and left the scene with Mr. Pink for Baylor Hospital in Dallas at 8:16 hours, where he was later pronounced deceased. This tragic incident, from the time that Mr. Pink was contacted at the front door until the time the two Mesquite police officers had to use deadly force to stop Mr. Pink's assault with two deadly weapons, took approximately 2 minutes and 1 second. The female victim had visible injuries and was evaluated by paramedics with the Mesquite Fire Department. She declined to be transported to a hospital for further treatment. The female victim told investigators that she called 911 because Mr. Pink physically assaulted her because he was upset about a financial situation. Physical evidence supported the victim's allegations of assault. Mr. Pink reportedly punched her in the face multiple times, applied pressure to her neck, restricting her breathing, and threatened her with a knife. The victim later told investigators that when Mr. Pink closed the door on Officer 1, he made the statement, "They are going to have to kill me." The multiple assaulted criminal offenses Mr. Pink committed against the female range up to a second-degree felony. Investigators recovered the club and knife belonging to Mr. Pink at the scene. Investigators learned the club had been modified to have sockets and batteries taped to both ends. Officer 1 is a 25-year veteran of the Mesquite Police Department. Officer 1 was carrying a Glock 22 40 caliber pistol and fired 3 rounds. Officer 2 is a 21-year veteran of the Mesquite Police Department. Officer 2 was also carrying a Glock 22 40 caliber pistol and fired 2 rounds. The Mesquite Police Department will continue to investigate and analyze this incident. We will continue interviewing witnesses that may come forward and complete any forensic test. After the investigation is complete, the investigation will be referred to the Dallas County District Attorney's Office for review. The Internal Affairs Unit will also conduct an investigation and evaluate the evidence to determine whether the officer's actions and use of deadly force in this instance follow departmental policy and procedures. Thank you for taking the time to view this critical incident community briefing.